All right, guys, good afternoon and welcome into the Unabated, sponsored, presented by Unabated Pick'em show. This is the show on Friday afternoons where we basically log on to Unabated, we look at their Pick'em tools, we then log on to Underdog Fantasy, and we build a bunch of DFS Pick'em slips. Carty will be here at some point, I think. We will have him for a little while, but I was just sitting here on my computer and I was like, guys, I might as well just go live. I mean, what is of not going live right now when we can be learning ball, we can be checking out all this stuff over on Unabated, which, by the way, if you do decide you like these Unabated tools, you can subscribe. There's a link to it right below this video you're watching, or if you're listening on audio, right below this podcast that you are listening to. I've got my projections loaded up on Underdog, and this week, right now, the way I'm running them, I'm running it with no market smoothing. So when you go to unabated.com/NFL/DFS for the Pick'em tool, you can moderate things with the market, or you can choose not to moderate things with the market. You can just say, you know what, I'm all in on this set of projections. You can use Carty's projections. That's what I use. But you can also you can upload your own projections. So if you are subscribing to rotogrinders, you can load those in. If you subscribe to ETR, you can use those. SaberSim, you can use those. You can use whoever you want. I've got full Carty 100% blitz projections loaded in. Now, as I go to this screen, you guys are definitely going to realize 34% edge on a prop, that's a lot. Let's compare it to, let's just theoretically, let's compare some of the projections for Major League Baseball. You don't get anything in the 30s. You have four numbers, and this one is when it has the little I, it means there's not enough projection information. It means something is missing. So when you see that, you're gonna tell your stuff is pretty far off from the market. And if you are betting these things, we had a bunch of 4 or 5s. We had a ton of 4 or 5s last week. I think one of the 5-leggers hit. I do not remember which one. But it was particularly, yes. Yeah, it was the Anthony Richardson passing, the Michael Pittman Jr. slips, because I just loaded Derek's stuff straight up. It is what it is. So I am going to be doing a little bit of self-moderation. Yeah, I would, this is my general thing with Pick'em. This is the way I guess we should have gotten this a little bit in week 1. The general way that I treat Pick'ems, pretty vibes-based, to be honest, and I am not loading tons of money in on these. I normally bet $10 per slip, $10 per DFS Pick'em entry. I use all the promos, right? So all of the promos that they have on Underdog, the profit boosts, the freebies, the vulture protection. I do all of that stuff because it's very hard to realize your edge with Pick'ems. I think that's what you guys will kind of, as we go through here, even if we've got a full screen of green dots, so many green dots. I mean, look at all these plays. Look at all of these plays that if we are using the blitz projections, or I mean, I promise you, if you use ETR or whatever, you're going to end up with a fair number of these as well. But we've got all of these with some degree of an edge. Well, if you're doing 5 slips and you're not playing with the insurance, which I do not use the insurance. I believe Thomas from Unabated last week on the program said he's pretty big on the insurance, which I think if you are really edge grinding, I do think you want to use the insurance. You want to use the flex entries. But actually, guys, I'm realizing the first thing that we need to do, we gotta fire the vulture protection. So the vulture protection, very similar. You get your entry refunded and you receive a promo if a vulture causes your entry to lose. If you select a player from the designated running back list To score a rush TD or rush plus receiving touchdown in the entry, you will receive Vulture protection. If your selected player gets vultured, your entry will be rescued and you'll be given a promo. So there we go. This is our eligible list. So let's build it. Let's build our Vulture protection. Someone help me remind all these. I mean, you get it. All right, so let's go Pacheco. Let's go Bijan. We gotta build the 8-legger here. So let's just go maybe game by game is the best way to do it. Was Aaron Jones on that list? Aaron Jones was on the list. Oh, see, they have these they have the little indicators next to them. Oh, you got to do King Henry. King Henry's got to be on there. He's Vulture protected. Brees, you got to include in there. He's Vulture protected. What a cool promo idea. Is Zeke this will be a good bit. Is Ezekiel Elliott Vulture protected? Kamara, there we go. Zeke is Vulture protected. How fun is that? How fun is that? Ezekiel Elliott is Vulture protected. I got too much dignity to click that. Well, maybe I don't, but I'm going to pretend like I do. I'm going to add Ramondre Stevenson. How many is that? That's 7. We need one more. One more here. I would add Charbonnet, but he's not in there already. Let's add Brian Robinson Jr. Oh, he's not protected. Brian Robinson Jr. not protected, not in the entry. Is Etienne protected? Etienne is protected. Bang. And we will do our $10 DFS Pick'em entry here in Champions. Now, these are flex playouts, so it changed a little bit. We could have done a 5-legger, and it would have been a little bit different. But we also have the ability to get this one rescued. Isaiah Pacheco, Bijan Robinson, Aaron Jones, Derek Henry, Brees Hall, Alvin Kamara, Ramondre Stevenson, and Travis Etienne to record rushing or receiving touchdowns. A $10 entry to win up to $797.20. I also, and I will post the link to this in the description. Now this is definitely vibes based. This play is definitely vibes based. This is we are just having a laugh. We are just having a laugh. But it's pretty fun to have a laugh. Now let's get into the nitty gritty using the tools over here on Unabated. And I'm going to do it a little bit differently than I did last week. I kind of was just blindly playing the edges last week. And I'm not going to be doing that near as much this week where, I mean, look at this. We've got 1,300 edges to choose from. I'm going to use the ones that are a little bit more aligned with how I'm playing them in DFS and a little bit more aligned with how I view the games playing out. And I'm going to begin right here with Justin Herbert's lower on the passing yards. That one very clearly makes sense to me because I actually think some of these other lines, some of these Raiders lines are off. My view of the slate, particularly my view of this Chargers-Raiders game, is that the Raiders are not going to be particularly competitive. I think if anything, if you were taking sides and or props in this game, I think the Chargers probably are my survivor pick for the week. And if the Chargers are the survivor pick, I mean, look, they are definitely getting it done via the ground. That's just how they want to play. They're going to be a very low pass rate over expectation team. We're going lower on Justin Herbert's passing yards. Some of these, like Chuba Hubbard, higher rushing yards, not into it. Zamir White, not into it at all. I think the workload is way too suspect with those two guys to be all that into it. I do very much like this one. I like the Brock Purdy higher on passing yards. Weirdly, when McCaffrey is out, I think the base instinct would be to believe, oh, well, actually, without McCaffrey, Purdy is they're gonna be more run heavy because McCaffrey is such a good receiver. But the way I would think of it is, well, the running game is not going to be near as good, and the Vikings, sure, yeah, I actually that's a very good point, Aaron. Is Herbert under 220 pass pressure rush a better play? Panthers probably won't get pressure to make him scramble. Yeah, and he doesn't even really want to scramble. You know, the rushing is going to be very low for Justin Herbert this week. I am trying to pull up the Splits app because I believe there was one game where I can do it this way. There was one game that McCaffrey didn't play as a member of the 49ers, and I would like to find that and see what Purdy did when he was inactive last season. Because I'm imagining, I don't really remember. Here, all right, he didn't play. Did Purdy play in this game against the Rams, this 2021? No, Sam Darnold played in this game. All right. Neither here nor there. I feel pretty strongly that this is much more of an Ayuk, a Kittle, a Debo game, all of that thing. So we are going to go Brock Purdy, higher passing yards. Now, again, you guys see how using these unadulterated blitz lines is going to give us pretty far off the market. You know, I imagine if we were to load in, and maybe we'll do this next week. Maybe I will load in the ETR projections, the rotogrinders projections, and just see how it changes things. But we are getting a good bit of edge there. I feel pretty good about this one as well, that Brian Robinson higher on rushing attempts. Eckler was not used like a rusher at all last week, and Brian Robinson was the clear rusher. The other thing that you were going to see with a guy like Brian Robinson is his touches are going to be super sensitive to game script. So last week, he only got the 12 rushes. Weirdly did actually work in the passing game a little bit as well. Got the goal line touchdown, played 56% of the snaps, but more importantly, he's going to be super sensitive to the game script. Eckler was not used. I believe Eckler got 2 rushes, but most of his snaps were routes. And if most of your snaps are routes, you're not going to be recording these rushes. I think Carty's line is quite right here. I think Brian Robinson Jr. over on the I agree with this. I think it's definitely like a Kittle Debo game. No doubt about that. So we're going Brian Robinson. Oh, there's the man himself. Mr. Carty. Hello, sir.
Hey, I am so sorry I'm late. I just am all over the place today. I'm very sorry.
Oh, dude, don't worry about it, brother. That let me tell you, in my life, I've done this many a time. I haven't even been talking to myself so long. I haven't even built one entry yet.
Well, glad you didn't get too far without me then.
Yeah, I just said so. Normally I do a little bit of the market smoothing, but I just pulled this on unabated right now is just straight your raw projections, which as you well know, right now is presenting with 1,310 edges because I have always admired this about you. You do not do near as much of the market smoothing as all of the other projectors. So we are 3 selections into this entry. Justin Herbert, lower passing yards, Purdy, higher passing yards, and Brian Robinson Jr., higher rushing attempts. Bang. There we go.
Right.
I'm very curious the Malik Willis higher passing yards. That was not one that I was expecting to see.
No, I wasn't either. I am on my list today is to check it to make sure I have his scrambles right, because if he's not scrambling enough, it's going to have more pass attempts for him. So I need to double check that. But assuming that's right, I mean, 159 yards is a low number. Like most bad quarterbacks in a bad offense average more than 159 yards. Like, I know Malik Willis is bad. They're not going to pass as much as they would with Jordan Love, but this is a pass-heavy team. And even though Malik Willis is bad, he has amazing weapons to throw to. Like, this is not a high bar for this guy to clear in this offense, in this system, with the receivers and tight ends and everything else that he has.
to give Carty credit, this is Tim Boyle. Tim Boyle, in 3 of his career starts, would have beat this
exactly. Like
this theoretical Malik Willis line.
I feel like a lot of people, they just see, oh, it's because I've won Tim Boyle overs before. Like people will see Tim Boyle over, or they'll see Malik Willis over, and they're like, absolutely not. You can't bet his over, but you can. You can bet anybody's over or anybody's under if the situation is right, if the line that you're being given, presents value. And I think with Willis this week, it does.
Yeah. I don't have the courage of my convictions to click it, but I think you are directionally accurate there. Let's keep going down here. Talk to me about this one. Your number seems far more right than the underdog number. Jerome Ford higher, 62.5 rushing yards. I'm going to add that one to this entry as well. I feel like, they barely use Pierre Strong or Donta Foreman. Strong was only out there to run routes. That 47.5 feels off. It
does. They were more pass heavy than we expected, than they have been, but they ran at the super fast pace we saw last year. So they're going to get a lot of play volume in general. Ford got all of the groundwork. Like Foreman, I don't think got a single carry, right? I think he played 1% of the snaps.
He played 1 snap.
Yeah. Foreman or Strong got a few, but they clearly they're going to give the ball to Jerome Ford right now, it seems like. And in a game that should see the most play volume, I think, of any play on the slate this week, I have it projected. It works for me.
I'm just noticing as we're up here at the top there, it seems like one of the things you're most off the market with is just kind of the script for this Las Vegas Raiders Baltimore game. You've got lowers on Minshew, lowers on Henry. Do you just have that as like a super, I guess actually a super fast-paced game in the sense that it just gets over very quickly? Like both of these teams are just keeping the ball on the ground, low turnovers, high completion rate. What's coming through for lowers there?
I think a lot of what this has to do with is just I'm projecting Vegas as an extremely run-heavy offense. They weren't quite that last week, but they were that last year after Antonio Pierce took over. He's talked all camp, all preseason about wanting to run the ball and establishing the run. And even after last week, he came out and said, we got to do a better job establishing the run more. Like he talked up White again. He talked up Madison. I just see this as a team that wants to run the ball, and they're going to fall behind, and at some point they'll be forced to pass. But I think they're going to try to stick with the run as much as they can. At least that's how I'm projecting it.
I like that. And there are, again, these are like pretty big splits from the market. A final one here. I again was stunned to see Bijan Robinson's stuff so low. My gut instinct from watching that first game was like their plan on offense is Bijan Robinson gets the ball always. First down, he gets the ball. Second down, he gets the ball. If we have to pass on third down, Bijan is going to be running a route, not pass blocking. Algier only played 10 snaps compared to the role that he was in last year. It feels, I suppose that feels very straightforward because that's a great way to protect Kirk Cousins. But across the board, his touchdown prices, his reception prices, everything for Bijan looked low for me.
Yeah, I kind of think so too. This is another team with, new offensive coordinator, new everything. And they basically said throughout the preseason, we want to get Bijan the ball. Like they said that was their game plan, and they came out in week 1 and that's what they did. They gave him almost all the carries. They gave him the second most targets on the team. Like they want the offense to flow through Bijan. That's what they did. I think we believe them.
Yeah, I definitely, I think that's exactly right. All right. So this slip, I'm accepting whatever updates they just gave me. I don't know if I should be, but we're doing it. Playing this one for $10. Justin Herbert lower. I actually did just do the rushing plus receiving yards because someone in the chat made that point that actually it's better than just playing the passing yards, because my personal projection for Justin Herbert rushing attempts in this game would be like 0.7. I think he would literally only do it to get a first down on a third down scramble. So lower Herbert, pass plus rushing yards. Bijan Robinson, higher, 62.5 rushing yards. Brock Purdy, higher passing yards. Brian Robinson Jr., higher rushing attempts. Jerome Ford, higher rushing attempts. I will share the link to that in the chat. Let's just zoom out a little bit. What are some of the hardest spots for you to project after week one? How much are you, because doing projections after week one, like week two projections are probably the hardest of the entire year, because you're having to readjust to the stuff that you thought for the last, 6 months. And it's your job to parse out what was just week one weirdness. What is the trend? What is useful? What is not useful?
Yeah. So the thing that's most useful after week one is pace. And I think that's one of the things that fantasy players, bettors, sports books, it's like one of the biggest edges everywhere. Like people don't account for it enough. Pace is huge because volume is huge. People care a ton about, target share and goal line carries and whatever, which is great. But like just the total volume of plays, if one game is going to run 15 more plays than another game is going to run, like you're going to have more opportunities for stats. And pace is so stable that after 1 week, we have a really good idea of who the fast-paced teams and who the slow-paced teams are going to be. Pass rate, run rate, not quite as stable, but we can, buy into it a little bit. And then the other tough part is just kind of like week one stuff happens and everyone wants to believe that's what's going to continue happening. You want to react enough to what happened in week one without overreacting. And that's kind of the balance that is hard to strike in week two, especially when situations play out differently than you expect. Like we were talking about the Raiders. I expected the Raiders to be super run heavy. I expected Zamir White to get almost all of the work. Like that's what they said all off season. And then it didn't happen. They weren't run heavy. Alexander Madison worked in way more than usual. So like projecting like Zamir White this week and the Raiders offense in general is like, it's a little trickier than you'd expect, just because week one didn't play the way you thought it would. And you kind of, a projection is ultimately kind of going to be a little bit of a hedge between what happened and what, you think should happen going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, as a person, as a fantasy player, I probably tend towards being a bit too much, like a bit too reactionary, probably. So I guess that is important to recognize as I go through these. But some of the spots with the rookie quarterbacks, I mean, those are going to be really hard, because it's like, well, my base rate is that Bo Nix will probably play better. Jaden Daniels will probably play worse, actually. He ran so hot on the rushing stuff, and like Caleb will play much better. And then sometimes it's like you don't know how coaches are going to respond to like a Rico Dowdle. This would be a really good one. Like Zeke was really bad in that game, 34 out of 36 of ranked running backs and rush yards over expectation, meaning he was really bad. But Dowdle wasn't that great either. Zeke scored the touchdown. Zeke had one play where he looked really good. He hurdled a guy. So it's like, I don't know. You could tell me Rico Dowdle gets 4 rushes in this game against New Orleans, or you could tell me they totally switch it and Zeke plays 11 snaps. It's like, so those are just really difficult spots in general.
Yeah, there's a few like that. Like I think the Dallas one is a good example. I think the Chargers one is a good example with J.K. Dobbins. Like obviously they want to run the ball, they split the work. Even this week they said both guys are going to keep playing, but like Dobbins was obviously so much better. So is Dobbins going to jump ahead and get the bulk of the work? Is it like, we don't know. We're kind of, trying to react without reacting too much.
100%. Okay, let's build another one here. And let's begin. I was hoping I would see this one. Let's begin with Caleb Williams, higher passing yards. You've got him for right around 230. The line is 215.5 on Underdog. I mean, I feel pretty strongly that is right. Feels like just like turning Caleb Williams into like a below league average quarterback feels wrong to me from the market.
Yeah, I've already hit two Caleb Williams overs on the cover show I did earlier today. I like it this week. I think people are, of course, overreacting to how how bad he looked last week. This is a guy who went first in the draft. Everyone says is a generational quarterback. He's so good. He's in such a good spot to succeed in Chicago now. And now it seems like everyone's like, well, forget that. He's terrible. Which,
right.
I mean, he's probably not good yet. Like most rookie quarterbacks are not good. They're among the worst quarterbacks in the league. And the Blitz still thinks Caleb Williams is probably one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the league. It's not like it thinks he's good.
Right.
But he doesn't have to be good to beat these lines this week. He's in an offense that played at the third fastest pace in football last week. And like we said, very sticky, very something we can definitely believe. So this game projects for high volume. They were the fourth highest pass rate in the league, context adjusted. And I think the DeAndre Swift thing kind of works in our favor here because we didn't know going into week one, okay, how's the work going to be split up? I think both of us thought Khalil Herbert was going to get more of the groundwork than he actually did.
I was surprised how little he played, and Travis Homer playing on third downs. That was weird.
Yeah. And they came out, this week and they're like, yeah, we love Swift. Like we're kind of probably going to go away from the running back by committee thing, which I think kind of supports the high pass rate last week, because if you're going to be a run heavy team, like you're not really going to lean on DeAndre Swift for 20 carries a game. Like if he's going to be the guy getting the bulk of the carries, there's probably not going to be a ton of them to go around. They're going to be a little more pass heavy. And they're in a good spot here. They're in a dome. It's a fast paced game. You have just general regression coming for Caleb Williams. I have my fingers crossed that Keenan Allen's going to play. I don't think Odunze is, but if they're without both of them, not great. But if he has more in Keenan Allen, that's more than enough, I think.
I think that's right. And actually, Eberflus, I think, said yesterday, he's like, it's actually not as bad as we thought with Rome. Like they did. He got his MRI. And I mean, I don't know if he's going to play this week. I haven't seen if he's practiced, but they said it wasn't as bad. It says it wasn't as bad as they thought. This is a classic to me. Cooper Kupp lower receptions. That is a classic Cartyism. No shot in my life would I ever take that, because it's going to be too painful. But yes, that is a classic. Like guy gets super juiced up. His lines change. What was his receptions last week? Probably 6.5. Like just gets like super, super boosted up. Like of course it's going to show value to the lower there.
I bet this one, and I held my nose doing it on Tuesday. It was under 7.5 plus 145. I think I'm like, I have to, like, even when Cooper Kupp was Cooper Kupp, he went under 7.5 about half the time.
Yeah.
And so is he really Cooper Kupp of old? Like maybe, but probably not. He's probably a little worse than that. Puka's out. He looked great last week, whatever. It's a high line.
It's a high line. It's a high line. Here's a better vibe space one that really goes along with my priors. Terry McLaurin, lower receiving yards. He just is a terrible fit. Not for Jaden Daniels. He's actually a great fit for Jaden Daniels. Terrible fit for Cliff's offense. Just brutal, man. Go stick you out to the left. You're against the best cornerback on the other team. I don't know if the New York Giants, I guess the Giants do have one competent NFL corner. So I suppose that's fine. But yeah, I until McLaurin gets to like 39.5 for his kind of average line on Underdog, I think that is going to be a pretty popular lower.
Yeah, I agree. It seems to be basically what you said, not the greatest fit for this offense, and it's probably an offense that's not going to be very good either.
Be very good, yeah. Do they have loot? Does Luke McCaffrey have anything? Oh, just the touchdowns. What do the green percentages represent? So this is on unabated. It's basically roughly, it's not exactly this, but it's the difference between Carty's projected line and the available line on Underdog, factoring in that it's minus 122 is what the
I think the implied line on I mean, it depends like which kind of thing you're doing. Minus 137 I think is the standard, but it depends on what you're doing.
So including the rake of doing a pick 'em entry, it sets up the edge. It sets up the edge there. How Will Levis, I mean, that is to me, that is a home run. good running the ball. Pollard looked great running the ball. The turnovers, like I think this idea, and I kind of bought into it too, the preseason, like, oh, they bring in Ridley, they bring in Hopkins, they have this forward thing, Callahan built this cool offense in Cincinnati. I mean, this game, I mean, how low pace could this game possibly be? This game could be over in 90 minutes. The Jets starting offense, I believe, ran less than 40 plays before Tyrod came in. Like, Rodgers brings the clock down to 0-0 every time. Like, that game is going to be over very quickly.
Yeah, the Jets play extremely slow. Titans played, if I remember, I have to check. I'm pretty sure they played very fast last week, which might counterbalance it a little bit. But yeah, definitely projects below average for volume as a whole.
Yeah, that one feels pretty strong. I'm not gonna take the lower on Pollard rushing attempts. What is Spears rushing attempts? Because I'd be kind of interested in taking.
Yeah, if they set him low, like 6.5 or something, I'd be interested in that.
He doesn't have one up yet, but they definitely will. Sam Darnold, higher passing yards. Okay, just kind of zoom me out. Vikings passing offense. I assume you feel similarly to me that basically it's like KOC. He's the man. You give that guy Malik Willis. We're taking Malik Willis's higher passing yards. Like he's just going to create a functional NFL offense.
Yeah, that's basically what it seems like. Darnold looked good last week. He
completed his first 12 passes.
Yeah, no, he looked capable, and the Niners liked him enough last year to kind of trust him almost. Certainly probably learned a lot under Shanahan.
I think he learned a lot. Yeah, I think that was a good experience for him. We'll add our fifth leg here. Let's do Jamal Williams lower rushing yards. My thinking was all of the Jamal Williams usage last week was related to playing the Carolina Panthers, and that against non-Carolina Panthers opposition. I wonder if he even plays at all. I actually wonder your risk on creating this entry might be that he doesn't register a snap, and that, but because Taysom is the running back too. I mean, that was what the usage showed in week 1.
Oh yeah, no, he's definitely the third guy in line for carries, and I think he got more last week than he would have because it was the Panthers and they blew them out. And in this game, it's most likely going to be the opposite. They're going to be trailing. They're not going to be running as much. It's going to be, much more Kamara where, they're not winning by 30 points and they need to give Kamara, a breather or whatever to not get him hurt. I like the Williams under.
All right. That is another 5-legger. Actually, how do you approach these? Do you do 3 legs? Do you use insurance? Like, kind of what is your pick'em entry strategy?
So pick'em is not legal in my state. I've actually never played
brutal.
Yeah. No, I have sports books. I've had sports books for a long time, but I don't have pick'em.
So that's so funny. I can't use. Oh, did I do this wrong? No, I didn't. I don't have sports betting. I have to go drive across the river to do. So if I want to go do, Vikings +5 against San Francisco, I have to go drive across the river. It's like a 20-minute drive. But I have Pick'em Champions, which is actually slightly different. It's kind of like a pari-mutuel pool where your winnings are determined by how the other people in your pool do, which is if you take a lot of lowers or if you take a lot of unpopular ones, like if you're not hammering Cooper Kupp higher receptions, then it can really increase your chances for a payout. All right, I'm going to clear this one and we can build another slip. What game, like from a DFS perspective, what game are you most different from the public on? We can start there. Do you think, Rams Arizona can go under? Are you off the Lions guys? Like, what is the spot you're most different from consensus on?
It's early enough in the week where I don't have a great sense of what consensus is going to be yet. I kind of just been focused on, I mean, it's week 2. It's the first week that we have in-season data to work with, getting the blitz up to date, doing the usage and everything. I mean, it might be New Orleans. Like the New Orleans passing offense in general, I think this week, I'm high on them in general coming into the year, and it's going to be a fast-paced game. It's indoors.
Yeah, Kubiak, he was awesome in week 1.
Yeah. So maybe that's because I can't imagine the public. I mean, I guess they had a great week last week, but I can't imagine the public's going to be too into New Orleans.
So this is just a very interesting thing that happens on Unabated, which is that because it calculates the rake and it runs a simulation, is you'll see Derek's projection actually being higher than the line, but because of the implied rake, it ends up showing up as a negative edge. However, what's funny is if we add it in and we put it into a 5-leg, then it will end up showing us like a very slight edge, which I just I appreciate their ability to do mathematics. All right, let's go back down to the list. So these are some that are a little bit narrower. So this is a little bit more kind of your personal preference. Talk to me about the 49ers passing game versus the Vikings this week, because do you have McCaffrey in or out right now?
I have him out right now.
Yeah, which I think is correct. I think that is the right way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, this is another one of those situations where like there's a bit of uncertainty, more than you'd normally have for a team like San Francisco. But like Ayuk didn't play his full complement last week, didn't really get his full volume. They kind of said he's fine, but obviously had the whole contract thing in the preseason. So like knowing how much he's going to get is a little tricky. Which obviously then is going to trickle down to Debo. We've only seen 1 week of Jordan Mason, so how much do we really know about him? I do think, though, they're in a good spot. I mean, they're in a dome. We know the Blitz loves domes.
Boy, does it love domes! Yeah,
it really, really does. But yeah, they're in a game where without McCaffrey, more reason to throw the ball.
So that's so funny is you would think, oh, no McCaffrey, they're going to tilt more run heavy, right? So they just, they have Mason in there, but it actually goes the other way, because if you regress Mason more towards like league average rushing efficiency than what he did last week, just absolutely tearing the Jets up, you realize like, oh, well, they're such a good passing team. Their success rate passing is so high. This actually is like much closer to a passing script for San Francisco than it is a rushing script.
Yeah, that's kind of my take on it too.
All right. Well, this is just a good one. Let's go. Bryce Young, lower passing completions. I mean, what do you do with a performance that bad? Like how just like, man, how do I truly, from like a projections math-based perspective, I don't know. Like Bryce Young playing against prevent defense for 3 quarters just cannot complete like simple 8-yard passes. I don't even know how you do it.
It's I mean, the Blitz hates Bryce Young. And I kind of was hoping that it was going to be wrong on him coming into the year. Like, oh, he's got Canales now and he's the quarterback whisperer and whatever.
Yeah, did not work out.
Just nothing last week. Yeah, this is not a good spot. It's a slow paced game. They'll probably be forced into passing at some point, but like, good luck with that.
Yeah, I agree. Josh Jacobs lower. I was hoping that this would show up as a play, and the reason why I was hoping it would is it falls into my idea that basically the Packers are not going to have the luxury of running Josh Jacobs in this game. It's like, well, I mean, obviously any like one play can kind of always kill you or whatever, but it would sort of be my belief that things just don't set up that well for them to run the ball. Like assuming Richardson plays roughly as well as he did last week, which is like kind of the Anthony Richardson hair on fire experience. I mean, I think you're, I don't know if I've got the stones to bet Malik Willis passing hires, but I do think your wide lens analysis is correct, which is, well, they're a pass heavy team who's a dog at home, which implies that the market kind of thinks they stink. How are they going to be able to afford to run the ball? They're not really going to be able to.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly it. It's basically the exact same thing we talked about with Willis, where I think this is a team that's still going to be able to throw the ball. I think they're going to be more efficient than people think just because of how good their receiving core is. And Jacobs, it's not like he got like all of the work last week. He got like 70%. It wasn't like he was getting a 90% thing.
And Lloyd will probably be healthier coming off a 9-day rest now too.
You think Lloyd's going to play this week?
I mean, they didn't put him on IR, so it's like if he's not ready this week, it's like you didn't put him on IR for one game. So I think, and Emmanuel Wilson, it's just like he literally was in college for 6 years at colleges I'd never heard of. It's like a total non-prospect, and LaFleur is just so committed to not playing one running back that he was giving this guy Wilson. And I think Jaden Reed, this is less of a database take, but I sort of think Jaden Reed will get more rushes this week as part of the game plan, just as a way to take some stuff off Willis's plate.
Yeah, well, we certainly saw a little bit last week. And even Willis himself will probably eat into the designed runs a little bit because he's Willis. And yeah, like you said, LaFleur is the kind of guy where he doesn't want to lean on one running back. He's said with Jacobs, he's the kind of guy he can do it with. And, I think with Lloyd out, we'll see them leaning on Jacobs more than they will a little bit, later in the year, middle of the year. But they're still going to, if Lloyd's back, then I love this. And even if he's not, I still like it because they're going to give Emmanuel Wilson some work. And they probably, like you said, they probably aren't going to have the luxury of running a whole bunch of times.
Yeah, I really don't think they will. Another one that I think is pretty strong, Dak Prescott, higher passing yards. I think this being at 253, I think it's baking in a little bit too much of preseason Cowboys. The same way it was last year. The Cowboys, they're going to be very run heavy. They're going to run the ball. That's who their identity. No, this happened last year after the bye week. They said it doesn't work. This year they said it's just not going to work at all. We have Ezekiel Elliott and Rico Dowdle, our running backs. We are a pass heavy team. We pass the ball. That seems like a really good angle. You could correlate that with I haven't even looked, but I'm going to guess that Cooks doesn't have anything posted yet, but I'm going to guess when Brandon Cooks stuff goes live that you will have positive value on Cooks stuff.
Yeah, I would imagine there's going to be some value on Cook stuff, maybe on Tolbert stuff. But yeah, it's like you said, they were the third most pass heavy team last week. They were pretty pass heavy last year. This is a super fast paced game in a dome. Dak is good. His receivers are good. I'm all about this one.
Yeah, it's beautiful. All right, Kyle Pitts, higher receptions. Obviously, only the 3 receptions last week, but you must just be kind of regressing the Falcons a little bit more towards your preseason projection. It seems like and I actually kind of like the Falcons side in this Monday night game, but it seems like there's been this huge overreaction. Kirk Cousins, he stinks. He can't move. They're the worst offense in the NFL. They're terrible. How could we have fallen for this with Drake London and Kyle Pitts again? So Pitts, that one seems very strong to me. That might be my favorite one that we've hit on yet. Pitts over receptions.
Yeah, I like that. Obviously, we've been burned many, many times by the Falcons, or at least I have, because last year I loved Drake London. I like Pitts a little bit. And Arthur Smith just crushed all of our dreams all year long. But this is not the same Falcons team anymore. It's the same players, but with Kirk Cousins in the mix now and with completely new coaching. I don't think you can be like, well, the Falcons disappointed us last year and they disappointed us in week 1, and so we can't do Falcon stuff anymore. I don't think that's the right approach at all.
I agree. And I think that the huge signal from week 1 was that Kyle Pitts ran 100% of the routes and was on the field the entire time. That I think is the kind of stuff that you can start to take signal from. Yeah, this right here.
Last year, he only ran, I think, like about 3/4 of the routes. I think 77, 78%. So
he'd never been over 80%, I believe, ever his whole career. Maybe 85%. This is a classic Carty play right here. Cortland Sutton, higher receiving yards. He was only bested in targets in week 1 by Cooper Kupp. His line is posted at Underdog at 37.5. I mean, it's not gonna be a very fun experience watching it. I wouldn't recommend watching a ton of that game, but Devon Vele is actually listed as questionable. Feels like Sutton should, I don't know. Feels like you're 40. I would expect his line to be 46.5, not 37.5, basically.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, I get it. Bo Nix is probably very bad. The Broncos offense in general is probably very bad. But who else are they going to throw the ball to? Like, he got a bunch of targets last week, which was what we expected. We have to expect it again. It's gross, but for a guy who might, be like a top 10 or 15 guy in target share this year, a 30 whatever yard line is just too low. It's gross, but that's why it's a good bet.
I mean, those are they're basically the grosser the bet, kind of the higher likelihood of it being something that the sports books and that these the pick 'em sites, they don't even care. They don't even care if you win those, because they're just going to be on such a low percentage of entries. Like, you know what would be really bad for Underdog would be if Tyreek Hill hit his receiving over every single week. Like, they'll just keep putting that higher. Like, a great example of this actually will be next week. The Dolphins won't have Tyreek. His fair, I bet my bottom dollar you show. I don't even know who the Dolphins play, but I bet my bottom dollar you show value on the under for Tyreek Hill receiving yards next week, assuming like something like a neutral matchup. But his line will be 94.5, and Tyreek Hill over receiving yards will be one of the most popular entries on Underdog, or one of the most bet props next week, 100%.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it is. Oh, I did, by the way, just put this one in here. I'm accepting the update, whatever it was. Probably not GTO, but we're doing it. We have got, this is the gross slip. This is the all gross slip. Cortland Sutton higher, 37.5 receiving yards. Bryce Young lower, 18 completions. Josh Jacobs lower, 64.5 rushing yards. Dak Prescott higher, 253.5 passing yards, and Kyle Pitts higher, 3.5 receptions. What I wanted to ask you about was Marvin Harrison Jr. I waited for his stuff to get posted this week. I'm wondering if we are on different sides of this, but I took hires on Marvin Harrison Jr. receptions, yards, basically just being like, it is insane to me in a very, very good passing matchup against the Cardinals that he would end up being priced so far down from where he was priced in week 1, and priced so far down from where he was priced in like seasonal fantasy, and just kind of what the market thought of him. So I have Marvin Harrison Jr. hires as kind of like my favorite play of the week. It looks like you're right about there. So it's just a little bit of unabated math that is not having it pop up as like a super jam. This feels like a very hard situation to project, though. What are your thoughts there?
It's a hard one. Like, we expected him to be, kind of the dude there. He wasn't, but he was out there. He ran 95% of the routes. They talked this week about, trying to get him the ball more. It seemed like the coverage last week just kind of wasn't working in his favor. It's a super high variance one. I worry that Arizona just wants to run the ball. So just like the passing volume in general is going to be tough to come by, but they will fall behind here probably.
Yeah. I mean, I think both of these teams would actually probably prefer to run the ball, but I wonder if they're going to be like Kyren Williams. Actually, this is good. What does Mr. Carty have for Kyren Williams this week? Do we have lower rushing attempts on Kyren, can't get with that. I like your thought process, but man, that would be a painful one.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to see that because I have Kyren projected for like a pretty large majority of the carries. Like I wasn't buying into the whole, oh, Kyren's going to be a punt returner. It's going to be Blake Corum. And like, no, like they love Kyren. He's their guy. I think this probably just speaks more to just kind of game environment or something than anything else. More than like the Blitz doesn't think Kyren's not the guy.
All right. Oh, I forgot to put the link to this in the description. All right, Derek, you have got to roll out of here. I'm gonna roll out of here as well. Thank you for hopping on. I appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Sorry I was late.
Oh, don't worry about it. It's happened. It's happened many times, and it will happen again. Everyone, thank you very much for listening and for watching. I'll be back with the show next week. If you have any questions about the unabated stuff or about how to get access to Carty's projections, feel free to message me. I've got links for those, and we'll be back next week, everyone. Take it easy. Good luck.